Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News, and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about this very irresponsible statement, none other than by the Chief of Indian Army. And what he said that they are basically talking about some preemptive strikes in Pakistan. And what he said, I'll read it out for you. That was pretty interesting. Now, since there was this very interesting article written by Michael Kugelman, and he normally is a part of our show, mostly whenever we do shows on such issues. And he said India and Pakistan are edging closer to war in 2020. And now we have done a few shows regarding this. But especially, it adds a lot of value when you hear these statements coming from the Indian Chief, General Manoj. And he says that preemptive strike, they have the right for the preemptive strikes wherever there are sources of terror. So primarily threatening Pakistan again, and there was this story of an Indian newspaper in which they blamed Pakistan for the Pulwama incident, blaming that particular individual who was from the Indian occupied Kashmir. He was brutally treated, tortured in the jail, and when he came out, he took revenge. And that blame was put on Pakistan, and ultimately that person was sort of made a part of that particular group. Jaish Muhammad and so many other groups, I mean, they always talk about. And what he did was his personal decision for whatever happened to him. It was a revenge. And eventually, the Indians, they were talking about some surgical strike, and what all happened, we all know. They destroyed one of a particular mountain top where they threw their bombs, and the rest of the, I would say, those additional fuel tanks, and they ran away. Next day, 27th of February, then we told them what exactly a surgical strike is, and they got to know, and they were quiet after that. Then we handed over their officer, that Air Force pilot. But what I'm saying is that now the threats are there, the LOC violations. Just imagine 1 year, 2019, more than 2,000 violations of LOC, unprovoked firing and shelling from the Indian side. This is what has been happening all over the last 2019. But we expect a lot more to happen this year. There is a very high probability of Pakistan and India engaging in a war, most likely on the LOC and Kashmir. Now, if you remember, about a month ago, the Indians, they included our Kashmir, the Azad Kashmir, and they included Gilgit-Baltistan in their map. Now, just by sending few tweets or giving a statement does not mean that we have done enough. This is something very, very important. I think the Foreign Office this year need to really get up and do a lot more than they've already done in the previous year. But since this has been happening, this is very, very unfortunate. But we'll talk in detail now, since the former chief of the Indian Army, General Ravit, he has been made the Chief of the Indian Defense. Now, he is going to look after the major areas. He's being given this authority to monitor the overall Indian military's movements, their techniques, their everything, primarily what they do. Even the Air Force Chief, the Naval Chief, they also report to him. Now, the interesting part is that this new character is even a more dangerous person. The kind of statements he started issuing immediately once he resumed the office are very, very irresponsible. I think the international media and the United Nations should also talk about it. Now, since we'll be talking about this in detail, let me also tell you about the statements issued by the Foreign Ministry of Pakistan. Now, we have a new Foreign Office spokesperson. The lady said that we deplore the continuing proliferity of Indian political as well as military leadership to fabricate facts with regard to terrorism or the situation along the line of control, LOC, as part of their attempts to mislead the world, and with the possible intention of staging some false flag operation. This was also stated by our Prime Minister, that we should be very careful. The world should know that this is what India is aiming at, a false flag operation, and then doing something which we call a misadventure. There's another tweet also. We'll also read about it. It says, they would be well advised to look inwards and curb the growing Saffron terror, which is increasingly a matter of concern for the international community. Now, I'm sure most of us are on social media. We've been seeing what's going on Facebook, though this is not even 5% of what the actual happenings which are taking place in India. What we see is hardly not even 5%. The way the Muslims are treated, the way they are beaten by the mob, the way they are killed, the way they are hanged on the poles. They don't care somebody's aged or there's a woman or there's a child. This is the mindset Modi has created. The whole nation has gone bonkers now, especially the Hindus and all those who are followers of Hindutva, this RSS ideology. To talk about this, we have with us in our studio, let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us on my right is Irfan Qori Saab, he's a senior journalist. Thank you very much, sir. We have with us Arslan Saab, he's a former ambassador, a senior diplomat, sir. Thank you very much for your participation. We also have with us Kamar Chima, a known foreign affairs expert. Thank you very much, Chima Saab. Now, Qori Saab, a statement from the new Indian Army chief talking about the preemptive strikes, primarily threatening Pakistan, that we will attack you now. Your take on it, sir?
Thank you very much, Faisal. I think, just a day after assuming office, the statement made by him, it spells out the continuation of the policy that his predecessor had been, pursuing, and India as a whole has been pursuing. As you said in your intro, that in the coming months and weeks, we should expect more escalation on LOC, especially on the LOC. And it would have, it has, on one side, it is the Kashmir issue, which, since 5th of August, since the abrogation of Article 370, the situation there, it's been, I think, 150 days now that clampdown has continued.
Today is the
51st day. And on the other hand, the situation inside India, where the BJP government, it has, I would call it that their manifesto has been even dominating their constitution, the values and the constitution that the Indians had, the secularism, the democratic values.
It's a part of the past, sir.
So all that keeping in mind, I think now we would have to take these threats very seriously. This was when this about abrogation of Article 370, it was already part of their manifesto.
Yes.
And the
even what is happening in Assam, Bihar, and all that part, all over India, rather,
they
also
were
a part of their
there.
manifesto. Yes, sir.
And they have implemented it. And when they have implemented, they had, crossed all values. And even then, when the internal situation over there, the Citizenship Act and all this is coming. So what we can expect is this is what is being selling over there in India, and that is on the basis of which, if you recall the election, the last elections, before the elections, all the polls, they never predicted that this sort of majority, with this sort of majority.
We thought otherwise.
Yes.
After looking at the results in so many areas, especially in Rajasthan, yes, for that matter.
And that anti-Pakistan sentiment, that means it is still being sold. And what we see now is, all that interview with PTI, the Press Trust of India, and then the statements after that, its whole focus is on the eastern border. And very categorically he has been saying, other than this quote you have mentioned, he has been saying that they think that there are terror launching pads on the other side, and that can, they can move in and all that. So that means the apprehensions we have that any false flag operation,
there's a high probability.
That is very high probability.
Sir, a false flag operation or a misadventure, whatever we may call it, that is basically challenging the sovereignty of Pakistan, sir, coming inside and doing something. Last time we would let them go, because that could have led to something much larger if we would have shot down. But on 27th of February, we went inside just to tell them that this is what we are capable of, and see, we could have killed all of you. We would have shot down every. So we shot down 2 planes, and I swear upon God, sir, from very reliable sources, there were 6 more of their jets which were engaged to the extent that we were just supposed to press one button and boom. Right, sir? And they claim that their MiG-21 shot down our F-16. I was able to see those 4 attached missiles picture much before it was released, sir. Somebody showed it to me, and we were laughing, those grey missiles. They did not even fire one single missile, right, sir? So lies and lies and lies from the Indian side. But right now, sir, it seems that since the last year, post 27th February, they have been gearing up. They have been thinking and they've been revisiting their approach. And now this year, 2020, could be the year when these 2 nuclear nations can just have a big bang, sir.
And they reward their pilot for being captured. Award him. Actually, we have to look at this statement in a background of where India is today. Prime Minister Modi made an out-of-box action in Kashmir, and he was of the opinion that he would be able to control them, and he still harbors his hope that by brute force he will be able to succeed to make them succumb to their dictates. But we've seen, as far as Kashmir is concerned, that the people are still struggling. The world has, it has come on the limelight of the world. Condemnation, if not condemnations, at least criticism is being voiced about it by international media. Journalists, apart also from the parliamentarians, think tanks, and highlighting the atrocities that are taking place within the country, especially with regards the curfew that has been there, with regards the lack of international communication from there, and denial of the visits of any foreign journalists or politicians to visit there. You know what happened when some tried to go, even the Indians themselves. So on one hand, it was there. They were very happy when despite all that, we found that UAE and Bahrain, Arab world came forward and disregarded Kashmir, and they invited them on the National Day and, welcomed them with a special award and so on. But, and then further very happy that the Kuala Lumpur enclave that was to be held in Pakistan was not able to attend from there. But what has resulted out of that is that the Saudis, having realized the importance of Pakistan and the security aspect of that is provided by Pakistan to Saudi Arabia and to the Muslim world itself. They saw what happened as far as the Americans were concerned. Despite billions and so on and the latest technology that they have, they were not able to prevent the attack on their oil refinery. So there's a rethinking from there. And the result of Pakistan not going to the KL summit is that there is going to be a special session of the foreign ministers of the OIC to be held in Pakistan. So there is a rethinking on this side.
So the Saudi foreign minister was in Pakistan, and today, as we speak,
yes,
the Crown Prince of UAE is in Pakistan.
UAE is coming from here. So you see, that has also been backfired. Thirdly, the image of Modi internationally, again by various factors. On the Citizen Amendment Act, number 1. Number 2, the Registration Act has brought about a wave within India, not confined to religion, not confined to ethnicity, not confined to to any particular group all across the board in the country have come out against it. And there is a clear polarization taking place between those who are for the ideology of secularism and those who want to follow Hindutva. So all this is very, very worrying for Mr. Modi. And he has to...
It's worrying for Mr. Modi, but he's not worried, so that's the problem.
No, that is it. That is it. That this is a matter, well, let's say worrying or call it concern.
Yeah.
So there is, as pointed out by our Prime Minister or Foreign Minister, and even the recent conclave that we have, our ambassadors meeting and the special cell on Kashmir in the Foreign Office, also are of the view, they realize that, under this there may be a requirement to divert attention and they may attack Pakistan.
Now this is
Okay. Now,
very
as
much
far
possible.
as the army chief is concerned, he has taken over office. He has to reassert. He has to show that he's a gung ho and so on.
coming
So,
up with all sort of irrational and
and so
irresponsible
on.
statements.
Yes,
is popular.
It's a continuation, as rightly pointed out. He has to make a strong statement from there. But I mean, they are also beginning to succeed to some extent to cause Pakistan problems in the sense that, look, in 2019, 59 people died. Over 280 or 70 houses were destroyed,
Yes.
cattle were destroyed, and so on. Civilians, mostly civilians.
So many people migrated, left their villages
Exactly.
also.
Damage to properties on
Oh,
the both
yes.
sides.
Oh, yes.
Then they are now moving lethal weapons across on the line of control.
Placing missiles there. I mean, the kind of weapons they're having there. So obviously, our intelligence sources do inform
Yes.
that this is not something which is usual. This is very, very unusual. And the kind, sir, they have had fresh forces there,
Yes.
and the kind of movement which have been witnessed all along the area of Rawalakot and further moving north.
Yes, yes.
I mean, on the other side of the mountains, I mean, things are very different. But sir, if you allow me, sir, we're pretty short on time today. Chima Sahib, your take. Now, whatever is happening, I'm sure you follow these statements very closely. You have your own opinion. And a lot of people believe that whether we talk about the era of 90s, early 2000s, when there was a very strong probability, they were like daggers drawn, the high probability of war. Even then we were a nuclear state. But now, since Modi has taken charge of India and the kind of mindset he has developed, it seems that yes, sir, there is a very high probability.
I think there have been some sort of a political superiority of the idea of Indian political leadership, and which has been accepted globally, that some sort of a limited scale or a surgical strike in Pakistan is acceptable for the global community. And this has happened in the past. So, for example, what happened at Balakot, none of the international community came forward and described it as an aggression against Pakistan's sovereignty. And we let it go as, okay, this happened, and we didn't respond that, although we responded the way we should have responded, but we failed to build the political opinion globally that this is against the sovereignty of Pakistan. So time and again, whenever the new military leadership is there in India, so they are coming up with the same theme that, yes, targeting Pakistan or following the non-state actors, so-called non-state actors, which are in their mind and their safe houses, is a legitimate military target for India. So we have to dispel this impression. We need to make this global community this clear that such kind of thing happening again will lead to a limited scale military conflict, and this is where we have to...
Sir, it can't be a limited scale. I mean, which conflict is limited scale?
Sir,
War, you can't manage, sir.
sir,
It's just like containing air in the air, you can't do that.
Sir, in my understanding, sir, nuclear war is out of question, sir, the way the situation is, sir. But
So is India taking advantage of that, sir?
India, and sir, what they believe is that our military, when we
I mean,
call...
their forces are much bigger than ours, sir. Look at the number of people deployed only in Kashmir. What if they attack Gilgit? What if they attack Azad Kashmir? I mean, on a conventional front, I mean, definitely our forces have been given a very straight instruction. Just go after them with all the guns blazing. Once they come inside or even they think, just go after them. This is exactly what the forces have been told.
Sir.
Jalbajo, if they dare to.
So I think my understanding on this is that I think the Indians are, what Indians are saying is that I'm talking about their mindset. I'm not talking Pakistan's mindset. Their mindset is that Pakistan is calling a nuclear bluff. That, for example, if there is a limited scale conflict, Pakistan will not go for nuclear.
Are they talking about a threshold?
They're talking about the nuclear threshold. They believe that Pakistan will not cross this, even if Pakistan acquires the tactical nuclear weapons. So they understand this. So they understand that Pakistan will not go for this because starting a war is something else, and then maintaining
Who has told them that we'll not go for that option?
Sir, this is the military mindset.
This is their perception.
Sir,
This
the
could be
perception.
wrong.
They're
Maybe
definitely-
people on the 28th of February, sir, if you remember, the next day, we had shut down all the airspace and everything. Things were and what we heard that they had deployed missiles aiming at our bases. 8 of them. 8 of our bases, correct, sir? And in reaction, we told them that you please do that. But in return, what we'll do, then, let's see.
So my understanding, if I will to explain my perspective, is that I think they believe that Pakistan, I'm talking about their perspective, not from my perspective.
Go ahead, sir.
So please bear me for that. I think what they believe is that Pakistan will not cross the nuclear threshold. So the global opinion they have built is that if India targets the hideouts in Pakistan or in Azad Kashmir or somewhere, that is the legitimate military target. These things you have to understand. So I think this is where we have to work on this, that these ideas or these things are not. So we have a new Indian Army Chief General Manoj, and he's saying the same. Why is saying the same? And above all, what I think the political dimension to that is, I believe some sort of a nexus has been developed by Indian Army and the BJP. If you remember during the campaign in 2019.
And there was a time when Indian Army used to have their own decision-making process. Now, last 6-7 years, there is so much of influence, basically, that every single decision the military takes, it has to go through that procedure.
So sir, even if you talk about that, he's the chief of the General Bipin Rawat has been appointed as Chief of Defence Staff. India is already spending 2% of its GDP, that makes over $52 billion a year on its army. Having 1.2 million army, standing army right now, and right now they have the CDS. So I think the Indian Army is playing for the Navy and for the Air Force, and the Indian Army wants to establish its organizational superiority over the others, and they have this nexus because Army fulfills BJP's political design in terms of achieving their political objectives at home, and that keeps them the license to have an aggression on a higher scale. So I think this is where in my understanding, this is where I think things are moving forward. But so this perspective of the global community that India has a legitimate military targets in case they follow the non-state actor, this impression or this needs to be taken very carefully. If it goes, it can be any miscalculation, because if they have to achieve any kind of a political objectives, for example, and they push the army and they do something which is not acceptable obviously, we have to take care of our sovereignty and frontiers. So the political, I think the political value and worth of this idea needs to be taken care of.
Now, sir, over here, obviously the Indian designs have always been there, and I always quote General Kiani that the kind of power you have, and basically you're talking about the capability you have, that takes time to change, or rather that takes time to improve, but your intention can change overnight. Over here, sir, we can't trust unfortunately, we can't trust our neighbors, sir. Not on the one side, on the other side as well. Now, this is something which we all should worry about. India and Pakistan, the way they are moving forward, I mean, tomorrow they might end up saying that 1961 Water Treaty, we don't believe in that anymore. Whether the World Bank was the guarantor or not, let's renegotiate it.
Yes.
And the global community, for that reason, is going to restart that process. Unfortunately, that is the kind of influence the Indians have, whether we admit it or we don't. We should understand the kind of power the enemy has. Plus, obviously, this is the non-kinetic warfare, and they are playing at every level. When you talk about the kinetic warfare now, sir, especially again, I'll mention you about that changing of the northern part of the Indian map, sir. Come on, that is not a joke. How do you see that, sir? Do you think that they're planning to occupy some part of Azad Kashmir and then negotiate with Pakistan on certain terms and conditions? Is this what is brewing in their mind?
I mean, we can't say for sure what is exactly in their mind, but the designs are what what we see from what's happening now. In the given situation, I think we would also have to come out of that typical mindset where we just talked about, Kashmir, plebiscite and all those things. Look, inside Kashmir, even the political parties, whom we call them puppets, but the national conference.
They're also facing the music.
They are facing the music. Hundreds of, their workers, they are behind the bars. And you know what is happening right now? That those who are behind the bars, they are being persuaded that you change the loyalty. And recently, there was a press conference in Srinagar, which was not highlighted in our media, that three unknown people, they came up and they said, we are starting a new political party, and they were given the offices and all that. So that means
Demographic changes.
all that. So even those, the political parties inside Kashmir that used to be on the side of Indians, with this change in August, you see they have serious reservations. Similarly, within India, what is happening? The change of the secular, so-called secular values there, you would have to highlight those things. And this is you can say there is one argument that there is a global sort of phenomena where authoritarian regimes are coming and then the far right is, but there are people who believe that these secular values, they should stay. So we have to, when we our policymakers, when we talk about Kashmir and our relations with India, as Chima Saab was also pointing out, that now it is on the, we would have to see how we can get the attention of the international community, because with the with our existing stance, we haven't been, even the Muslim countries, what has happened in, after that, August 5th action of India, that we tried to call everybody, we went to, all the capitals, and even except 2-3 countries, Muslim countries, even not the Muslim countries were ready to even speak, just give the statement against that thing. So that means we would also have to revise our policy, and we would have to be proactive and see that how we can, when Indians, when it comes to, they always talk about, the Bloch situation in Balochistan. They talk about the terrorism, and they have successfully labeled us, as a nation from where this. So the Kashmir's, the struggle in Kashmir, which was a legitimate struggle of the Kashmiris, it has been branded as an insurgency, and where Pakistan's role, instead of being a country where we have legitimate claim over that, and UN resolutions and all that supported us, but with their proactive policy, they have been successful in branding us as a country that has been sponsoring terrorism. So,
Well, absolutely. Now, look at the media. You talk about Bollywood for that matter, sir. This is very important. Forget about the social media and the mindset and the false accounts, which are operating against Pakistan, and even from England and European countries. What I'm saying is, sir, that when you look at it from another perspective, that see, the way they have maligned Pakistan, even being so close to the Americans, forget about the technology, forget about the agreements on the foreign policy or military aid for that matter, so many other accounts. You talk about any terrorist movie, sir, for some reason, either they'll show Pakistan, or they'll bring in somebody from Pakistan, or they'll try to malign Pakistan in one way or the other and will associate it with terrorism. Whereas India, they'll show, I don't know what sort of in India they have seen, Ferraris and palaces and something of that sort, sir, serving wines, bottles worth more than 5, 6, 7, 8 $1,000. What I'm saying is, sir, that it's a different ballgame altogether. I see so many seasons of various programs where we see the collaboration of the Americans and the Indians. And I remember one of their top-notch actress, Priyanka Chopra, she was doing an episode in which they said, well, this was just blamed on Pakistan, an American episode. And there was hue and cry inside India against her. People were protesting. This is the level of engagement they have, sir. How dare you supported Pakistan? She didn't support it, but she said, well, you know, there was a character she was playing. Now, this is the kind of engagement they have, sir. Forget about the rest. They have done it. Where are we standing, sir?
You know, the Indians have had a huge advantage on the movie sector. Forget the negative movies, but even before we had tensions and so on, the movies that we were producing were nowhere near what the Indians from the entertainment point of view, and the outreach that they had from them. Of course, our dramas were better. We are probably reverting back to dramas which were better recognized there, and the TV. But the fact is that the first I'd like to comment that we should make it very, very clear, and in Pakistan it has been said enough that the army says is totally prepared for any misadventure on their part. So are the three services. And it is also made very clear that any part of attack on the Kashmir, Azad Kashmir, would be treated as if they are attacking the sovereign Pakistan as well. So this is a very clear message to be sent across from that. They have to think twice. Now, two or three interesting things will also happen in the beginning of the year. One is that Pakistan and India in 1988 had signed an agreement under which we declared our nuclear facilities, their locations and so on. We provided a list.
This was the time when Benazir put
1988.
88, okay.
88, after the test and so on. And in 1992, we started exchanging the list, and this only the other day we have exchanged that. This along with another one about the total prisoners, or total kind of prisoners that are in each other's custody for the whole year. Is done in January.
I think in
and
India
July.
they're a little less than 400, if I'm not wrong, sir.
Well, June, July and from here. Thirdly, the Pakistan military assistance, military training between the United States and Pakistan has been resumed. Officers are once again going back. Now that provides a window to the Americans on the thinking of Pakistanis, on the what is their plans and what is their designs. So these factors are very important because the fact that we are very clear what is our objectives from there, and the Indians also know that if they are going to go for any misadventure, they are going to pay heavily on that. And perhaps this prediction that in 2020 we may go to war, I don't know on that. Maybe the Indians are counting on the fact that they can have some pretext and come quickly, and before things flare up, they can just go away. But as you say, see what happened in Balakot. And now this business of terrorist camps being in Pakistan is no longer washing, as well as in Kashmir is no longer washing, as they realize that nobody is going across anymore from there, and that they were justifying the fact that they are targeting people from there, because now it is part, they have seen it to be his own part. So it's going to be very difficult for the Indians to go ahead with the project. And besides, Pakistan is not keeping quiet about it. Pakistan is having a fresh outreach diplomatically, as well as by media. And you mentioned media, social media as well, but as you saw...
Do you think, sir, Saudi Arabia and UAE can play a significant role in tackling India, sir?
No, I wouldn't say
that
that in tackling India, but they are not going to kowtow to India anymore. I mean, in the sense that their commercial interests were there. Now even the Indians are talking about the billions of dollars that the Saudis were going to invest in oil.
Yeah.
So that is gone. But my feeling is that they will be now more careful about Pakistan's relations with Pakistan. because they know that there are only two countries who can help them out security-wise, and that is Pakistan and Egypt. Egypt has turned out to be, didn't work out to be, and America is becoming unreliable, as mentioned here.
Egypt is more of a sissy state.
Yes. So I think we should be watchful about possible action from their part, but we should be prepared, and we are prepared, fully prepared for it.
We have to be very, very vigilant.
To say that it is going to be definitely on, I don't know, because of the fact that the countries now are beginning to realize, and then Pakistan is now in its diplomacy is going to go forward and say, look, you have to take notice of what is happening in Kashmir as a whole and in India as well. And you cannot no longer allow your commercial relations to overshadow your double talk
But
about
unfortunately,
democracy.
this is the name of the game. I mean,
But
it's very
beginning to
unfortunate,
change.
but this is the way it
It's
is.
beginning to change. Right now, as I said, already you see with Saudi Arabia, already.
Shima Saab, 2020, today is the 2nd of January. A lot of people predict. I mean, I'm talking about Mohit Pirzada, he's written an article, Kugelman, he's written an article. A lot of people believe that 2020 is going to be a very, very tense year for these two countries, with all the probabilities they've all, obviously they've thrown light on that as well. Your takes are including remarks.
I think Pakistan is definitely in a mode that Pakistan wants more economic engagements, and we don't want to get into any kind of this brawl with India. But India will like to drag us, because what they believe is that Pakistan should not have this diplomatic and global opening, because after winning this war against terrorism now we have this political stability, and we have this war against terrorism. Now what we want is our economic situation to be better, and this is where India believes that we need to isolate Pakistan. But sir, one thing which has happened very good, that is that India is at war with itself. So right now, rather isolating Pakistan, India is getting isolated globally. Without what we could have never done, India is doing it itself. So the global community is putting a question mark on India because of the nature of the political character they have. You know, sir, I was just looking, 19% of the parliamentarians in India, they have criminal charges. There is a book.
Beautiful democracy, isn't it, sir?
And this has never been even in 2014, there were 15% people who were.
You won't see those figures even in Mexico.
Yes, sir.
Bolivia.
So they call them the largest democracy. Yes, they have a right, but I think
In terms of the population, sir.
So we understand, but sir, I think what is important is Pakistan should keep going. Pakistan. One last sentence I will say: Pakistan is in a debt trap. All what we need to do is that our friends and foes are treating us alike. So we need to be very careful in our choices, and we need to have progressive choices.
I'll just quickly add, apart from the soft policies of, image with regard to movies, etc., they are also targeting and putting pressure on Facebook, for example, and Twitter to, not allow Pakistani, right image coming out.
Sir, that's the name of the game. I mean,
PVC has been...
Sir, I still remember, sir, about 2 years ago, I still remember on the, I'm talking about, I think it was the UNGA of 2017, if I'm not wrong. And so we were having the regular SOPs, reading out statements. Mia Saab was there as usual. And I remember Narendra Modi went to California. And it was Sushma Swaraj, the late Sushma Swaraj, the External Affairs Minister. She, in fact, delivered the speech and talked about it. Modi was there meeting the people from Facebook, from Amazon, from Google, top notch. And today there was another story that Amazon, Mukesh Ambani is spending $6 billion in India on Amazon, by the way. So quick.
So, quick remark, as you're saying, US Republican Hindu coalition, that way. In Canada, RISE Canada is an organization. I mean, the far right Indians organizations, they are supporting them, and they are trying to isolate. I mean, we have to change that typical diplomatic.
I think we really need to revisit our policies. We've been too good, too naive, too sweet as a neighbor. We need to be a little
that soft
more
power, we have to use that, and it's an excellent opportunity given by
provided the concerned people realize. But anyway, sir, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your participation. That's all we have for this week. I'll see you inshallah again on Monday. Till then, you take great care of yourself. Have a great weekend. Khuda Hafiz.